Good morning, church family. I'll tell you a little bit more further into the lesson as to why we have recorded this message this morning, but I'm sure Lee has already welcomed our guest, but let me add a word of welcome also to those who are visiting with us this morning. We are so glad that you're here, and we hope that you stay around after the service today so that we can have an opportunity to meet you and get acquainted with you and tell you more about the Broken Arrow Church. One of the things that we're joyful about doing this morning is welcoming a new family to our fellowship, and that is the Parkhurst family, Adam and Carissa, and their 5-month-old daughter, Laura Beth. And I know that they are in the assembly this morning, so if you guys would stand up for just a minute and let everyone put faces with your names. Adam is a financial advisor with Edward Jones, and Carissa is a music teacher at Oneida Ridge Middle School, and they're coming to us from the Park Plaza congregation. Carissa has been involved with New Heights before, teaching music there for a couple of summers, so that's a great segue into something we're going to be talking a lot about this morning. But Parkhurst family, we're so grateful to have you here. 2 weeks ago, Ben Williams from the Glenpool congregation was here to share a message with us in our worship assembly and then also teach an adult class here in the auditorium on the question, does God exist? And this morning, I'm speaking down at Glenpool like Ben did here, teaching a combined adult class and also speaking in their worship assembly. It was a couple of months ago that Ben contacted me and asked me if I could be with them on a Sunday morning, this specific Sunday morning, to share a couple of special messages with them regarding ministry to those with special needs and ministry to the families of those with special needs, whether those are children or adults in those families. And that's a subject that's very relevant to many of the families there at Glenpool. And they were wanting me to come and address, and I commend Ben for this and the Glenpool Church for wanting to examine the biblical framework and the rationale for this kind of ministry and to see how a church can become a safe haven and a place of acceptance and welcome to those with special needs and the families of those with special needs. So I'm grateful for this opportunity to be down there this morning. Obviously, that's a subject that is very real and relevant for my family and for our son Coleman. And so before I move on to the lesson that I have prepared for us here at Broken Arrow this morning, let me just thank you once again as a church family for your wonderful love for Coleman, for the way that you have embraced him and accepted him and embraced us and accepted us, for the way that you bless him and us in so many different ways with your encouragement and your support. Thanks to those of you who regularly sit with Coleman during services in the caring corner room, those of you who provide respite care for him, for us in our home when we have to be away for short periods of time, and for those of you who just always seem to be on call to help us out in times of need. And those times of need, as you know, can be extremely unpredictable. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. There's no way we can adequately express our thanks and our gratitude and our appreciation to you for the way you love Coleman and the way you have received us. Since it was impossible to be in two places at the same time this morning, I'm grateful for the technology that allows us to do this, for Robert Wilson recording this and others who may be involved in the editing, because it will allow us to accomplish something here at Broken Arrow that was very, very needful for us this morning. New Heights Summer Camp is going to kick off on Monday, June the 15th, and that's going to run through Friday, August the 7th. For those of you who may be new to the congregation here, New Heights began 6 summers ago in 2009 as a program called 50 Days of Food and Fun, and that ministry has continued to grow and expand every year since then. New Heights is both a summer food program and an academic enrichment program that's geared for pre-K through 5th grade. We have had a middle school program in the past. We have temporarily suspended that middle school program. Maybe we can reinstate that in another year or two, but we're trying to focus on what we feel we do best with New Heights, and that is with the elementary program right now. And that is offered to elementary age children, pre-K through 5th grade, in our immediate community, primarily from Rhodes Elementary, which is right across the street from us. And as we'll discuss in greater detail this morning, this ministry involves providing a hot breakfast and lunch 5 days a week for 8 weeks. The children are here from 8:45 in the morning till 4:30 in the afternoon. They receive, as a part of the academic enrichment program, they receive daily instruction in math and reading and Bible and physical education. There are weekly classes like Computer Lab and STEM, which is Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. There's weekly time in the New Heights Library. There's an art class they have every week. There is character education built into this. And so as we go forward today, we'll be providing much more details about both of those arms of New Heights Summer Camp. The first question we might want to answer, though, is why New Heights? Why do we do this? And it's simply because we are people who follow Jesus. We are Jesus people, and we seek to follow in His steps. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 21 says that He has left us an example to follow in His steps. In Matthew 10:25, Jesus said that it's enough for the disciple that he become like his teacher. And so as disciples of Jesus Christ, we seek to become like Him. We seek to become transformed more and more into His image. In His ministry, Jesus welcomed and openly received children, and He had some harsh rebuke for those who tried to prevent children from being brought to Him. He not only set that example in regard to receiving children, but in ministering to the physical needs of other people, and He taught us to do the same. In the text that was read for us this morning from Matthew chapter 25, Jesus says, when you feed those who are hungry, when you give drinks to those who are thirsty, when you welcome strangers, when you clothe those who are in need, when you visit people and minister to people who are in prison, even to the least of these, Jesus said, you do those very same things to me. And when you fail to do those things, you fail to do those to me. When you turn such people away, in essence, you are turning me away. I love this brief summary in Acts chapter 10, verse 48 of the ministry of Jesus in regard to the many things that He did. As Peter is teaching Cornelius and his family, he said that Jesus went about doing good. He went about doing good, and that's the kind of example that He left for us. Whether it's on the Sabbath day or the other 6 days of the week, Jesus said it's always lawful, it's always right to do good. Always right to do good. And there needs to be no larger justification for it. We serve for the sake of serving. We do good for the sake of doing good. Doing good is self-authenticating. It doesn't need any other justification or any other rationale. So in Galatians 6:10, it says that as we have opportunity, let's do good to all people, especially to those of the household of faith. Not exclusively to those of the household of faith, but especially to those of the household of faith as we take these opportunities to do good to all people. So New Heights is a unique opportunity that we have to do good, to serve, to be light and salt and leaven in our community. There was a question on Facebook that appeared about 1.5 years ago that basically said, if your church disappeared, if it just vanished, if it was plucked off of the planet, how long would it take for your community to notice that you were gone? Would they ever notice that you were gone? And I'm really grateful as the Broken Arrow Church in being light and salt and leaven in our community that I feel we would be immediately missed in this community if we weren't here. Through ministries like the food pantry and the clothing closet, through ministries like kids care, and on the largest scale and to the greatest extent, and I think the greatest impact, through the New Heights Summer Camp. There's no one else in our community, no other church in our community that is doing what is accomplished through New Heights. A little over 1 year ago, there was a Facebook friend from Kentucky who posted this on her wall, just asking these questions. She knew nothing about New Heights. She wasn't directing the question toward me or to us as a congregation. She was throwing it out to the Facebook world. She just asked the questions, what would happen if a congregation adopted a neighborhood? If they helped them with food, with clothes, with jobs, if they invested in their lives? What would happen if they showed their community and their neighborhood love and commitment and showed them Jesus? And when I read her questions, I had an immediate answer. And my answer in my own mind was, it would look like New Heights. It would be something like New Heights. And so this morning, what we're doing is sort of like an annual ritual of spring, it has become, taking a little bit of time on a Sunday morning for a congregational orientation and training. Part of that is to satisfy requirements of the USDA and their summer food service program and the training that they require. So part of that is for the USDA, but this is also to spotlight this ministry, to keep it in our minds and hearts, and especially to expose this ministry to our newer members and to recruit volunteers. You may be wondering, is the Sunday morning assembly the best time to do this? And I really think it is, because this is when the family is together. Hebrews 10:25 says that one of the reasons they weren't to forsake coming together was because they wouldn't be able to encourage one another and stimulate one another to love and good works. The word there, I've mentioned it to you before, is a word that actually means to irritate one another, provoke one another to love and good deeds. And so if you find this somewhat irritating, I guess that's okay. That's the purpose of it. It is to urge us on to the good works of this ministry. Ephesians chapter 4 says that one of the purposes of church leadership, elders and deacons and evangelists, is to equip the church for works of service. And New Heights is a wonderful work of service that we seek to equip people for. Brothers, those of you at the back of the auditorium who have helped with the communion service this morning, if you would please begin passing the forms out that you'll find on those back tables. These are training verification forms. If you've been here before, you sort of know the drill here. After I go through some of these things, I'd just like for you to print your name on these forms, sign them, and then date them, and then we'll have you pass them back down to the ends of the aisles, and I'll indicate when those need to be picked up. But as those forms are being passed out, I just wanted to remind you that when we did this last spring, it was actually a couple of weeks earlier in the spring. It was on April the 13th. And that was our first Sunday of meeting for worship in the Outreach Center after renovation work, remodeling work had begun here in the auditorium. The previous Sunday, the 6th, was our last Sunday in the old auditorium. Many of you stayed after services that night. We joined hands around the auditorium, we sang, and then we began the hard work of moving those front rows of pews out and cutting up the carpet. So that next Sunday, our first Sunday in the OC, happened to be the Sunday that we needed to do this New Heights orientation and training. And I showed you a picture on that Sunday to let you know what had gone on in the auditorium that week. And this is the picture that I showed you last April the 13th. And that is quite a contrast, and it's quite a blessing to have had that project completed last year on time and under budget. So thanks again to all of you for your generosity that made this renovation project possible. As I mentioned earlier, New Heights consists of two major arms, the summer food program and the summer enrichment program. So we'll start with discussing the summer food service program. This is a program that was established by the U.S. Department of Agriculture in 1968, specifically to address the nutritional needs of children who during the school year received free and reduced cost meals. And the thinking was, how do these children and how well do these children eat during the summer when they're away from school? So when 50 Days of Food and Fun that became New Heights started, we tied this in with the summer food service program. And in the first 6 years of New Heights, from summer of 2009 through 2014, 62,955 meals have been served. I'm just going to take you through several PowerPoint slides at this point regarding the summer food service program. And this is in regard to the forms that you will sign and hand in just a moment. The summer food service program, the purpose of it is to ensure that low-income children continue to receive nutritious meals when school is not in session. As far as our site eligibility, we qualify here as an open site simply because over 50% of the children in our immediate community they qualify for free or reduced price meals during the school year. In our particular situation, it's 62% of those children. Being an open site means that whether these children are involved in the academic enrichment program or not, any child 18 years and under can come into the Outreach Center during those 8 weeks of New Heights Summer Camp and receive a free hot breakfast and a free hot lunch. And we do have families during the summer that aren't involved in the enrichment program, but families in need who come and find meals for their children during that 8-week period. We are a self-preparation site. Some sites have food prepared in other places and they just provide a place for that to be served. Because of earlier sacrifices that were made in this congregation and with the building of the Outreach Center and the commercial kitchen, we have the ability to do that here. So the food is prepared here, the food is served here, and we follow these meal patterns meeting the minimum standard tables as established by the Summer Food Service Program, which means that for breakfast, we will offer them 4 food items, and we actually provide more than that. We add a protein to their guidelines, so we're actually able to provide more than the government requires. We will offer them those food items, and they're only required to take 3 of those. A serving of fruit or vegetable, a serving of bread or bread alternate, and 1 serving of fluid milk. This gives them choice in the matter. It keeps them from just having to, as a rule, take everything and then not eat everything. They are given choice in this, and that's what this phrase offer versus serve means. We offer these choices. They select at least 3. They can choose all of them if they wish, but this cuts down on food waste tremendously. For lunch, there are 5 food items that must be offered. A serving of meat or meat alternate, 2 servings of fruit or vegetable, 1 serving of bread or bread alternate, and 1 serving of fluid milk. And they are required only to take 3 of those 5 in order for this to qualify as a meal and for us to be reimbursed by the USDA. That's something that I didn't mention earlier, that as long as we follow the USDA guidelines, we are reimbursed to the penny for all of these meals, and we are actually able to provide with that money far more quantity of food and nutrition choices than the USDA requires. The next slide here, record keeping. To meet their regulations, we have to keep up with operating costs, labor costs, funds accruing to the program, the beginning and ending inventories, food donations that are made, training documentation, which this is training that we're doing this morning, and there are visits and reviews that are made by the Summer Food Service Program. There has to be a daily meal count of complete meals that are served to the children. The meals that are served to adults that may choose to buy a meal while they are here, the seconds that are served, excess meals and leftover meals, and then those that wouldn't qualify to be reimbursed, we have to keep up with non-reimbursed meals as well. The non-discrimination statement, you can just read that with me. The Broken Arrow Church of Christ is participating in the Summer Food Service Program. Meals will be provided to all children without charge and are the same for all children regardless of race, color, national origin, sex, age, or disability, and there will be no discrimination in the course of the meal service. Our key players in the Summer Food Service Program, the administrator and monitor is Colleen Detheridge, and I'll probably say this over and over throughout the course of the year, but this ministry would not exist without Colleen. This is a vision that she had, and this is something that she works on year-round. It's just not an 8-week program for her. And so we thank her, we commend her for all that she does in the planning and execution of New Heights. But she will be the one who prepares for this pre-operation visit before the first day of service, and also will be the one to lead us through when the Summer Food Service Program makes a visit during the first month to monitor 1 full day of meal service. The assistant site supervisor for the food service program and also the enrichment director, academic enrichment director, is Holly Parker. And we thank Holly for her experience in this area and for her willingness to do this again this year. The site supervisor and food production manager, the chief in the kitchen, is Jessica Galswick. Jessica works at Rhodes. She knows these children, and we're grateful to have her. We also have two other full-time people working in the kitchen, and that is Colin Lundy and Emily Reynolds. This brings us to the summer academic enrichment program, and so this sort of winds up the discussion of the summer food service program. If you have filled out those forms, if you have signed, printed your name, signed them, just go ahead and pass those down, and brothers, you can begin to collect those. This is not a commitment as such that you have made to help with that summer food service program, but it means that you have already done the required training when you choose to volunteer, and we would welcome your help in any way that you can help us. The reason we have the summer academic enrichment program is because of this reality known as summer learning loss. All students suffer some level of learning loss during those months of the summer break, but it's accentuated among children from lower income families because they have less access to academic camps, tutoring, computer programs, and so forth that could help them stay up during the summer. We provide the summer enrichment program for what would be considered a nominal fee. It's enough that it makes the families feel invested, that they're contributing to what their children are doing during the summer, but it takes into account that most of these are lower income families. So they can participate in the full 8 weeks of the enrichment program, 8:45 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon, for a $20 registration fee and $10 a week, a total of $100 per child for New Heights Summer Camp. That's 320 hours of activity and instruction. You do the math on that, and that comes out to about 31 cents an hour. So this is extremely affordable for these families, but that tuition helps us cover some of the cost of New Heights, and the rest of that cost is provided by your generous contribution of time and volunteering, by the congregation's budgetary contribution to New Heights, which was, I believe, $12,000 this year. We also receive grants and other contributions from partners in the community. Since we are now since New Heights is now a separate 501c3 not-for-profit organization, that opened up more possibilities for us to apply from grants and to get more partners within the community. There's some exciting things that are new in New Heights for 2015. The first of those is the connection that we now have with AmeriCorps, specifically with the VISTA program within AmeriCorps. We have been approved for 2 volunteers. One of those volunteers is Alora Blevins. Sorry about that, Alora. Alora Blevins, and we are still waiting to firm up that second AmeriCorps Vista volunteer. But this is a wonderful way that they can contribute, and they serve very important staff functions within New Heights, and they are paid by AmeriCorps. One of the things that all of our children will be experiencing in the New Heights program this year is this Stop and Think social skills program. And let me read just a little bit about that, about Stop and Think. It says these are practical skills that help students manage their own behavior and successfully interact with others. And this involves subjects like listening, following directions, asking for help, ignoring distractions, accepting consequences, apologizing, dealing with teasing, handling peer pressure, and how to set goals. I really want to investigate to see if there is an adult version of Stop and Think, because I think a lot of us could be benefited from something like this. But I think you can see how these children pre-K through 5th grade will really gain a lot out of this. In addition to the daily math and reading class, there's going to be an applied math and reading class where they put those reading and math skills into use in very, very practical ways. They're going to spend 2 weeks each in 4 different subject matters in these classes. One of these is sewing. One of these will be in the kitchen in regard to measurements and cooking. Another one is scale drawing, and then ham radio operation. They're going to be taking their reading skills, their math skills, and applying them very practically in all of these areas. There is a new curriculum for our pre-K and first grade. This is a Bible-based manners curriculum called Manners of the Heart. It's an etiquette education program creating little ladies and little gentlemen at a very, very early age. This one has got a huge awe factor to it because it's really encouraging to see what's included in this Manners of the Heart curriculum. And again, in regard to etiquette education, maybe we could find an adult version of this to share at other levels as well. There is an online math program called Wowzers, which is personalized for each student. Each student that is involved in this online curriculum gets an individualized plan that assesses where they are in regard to their math knowledge and proficiency and helps them move on to the next level. And then the final new component is this CATCH curriculum. The acronym stands for Coordinated Approach to Child Health. This is a health and nutrition curriculum. And again, this is not just for one segment of New Heights, but all of the children will have 2 45-minute sessions every week. And the CATCH program is going to be led by Kelly Warren, who is our resident registered dietitian. And I'll just step through some of these PowerPoint slides in regard to the enrichment program and key enrichment staff members. Again, the enrichment director is Holly Parker. And again, we thank her for taking this on for another year. We do need a math teacher. Jacqueline Foster is our reading teacher. We do need a teacher for STEM, which is, again, science, technology, engineering, and math. Shanna Warloft is teaching pre-K, but we need another pre-K teacher also. The Manners of the Heart and the 2nd through 5th grade Bible are still in need of teachers. Kelly is leading the CATCH program. Jennifer Bradley is listed here as art, and I think I failed to make this correction. I don't believe that Jennifer is going to be able to do this, and so it's not just Jennifer that we need to replace here. I think there are actually 2 art teachers that we're going to need for the summer. Becky Sisson, once again, is going to lead physical education. Mignon Lee, for the umpteenth year, is going to be working at the front desk, and she does a very good job with that. She knows these kids, having worked at Rhodes. Tracy Michael will be heading up the library for New Heights. And then we have full-time counselors that will be working with each of the age groups and going with them to all of these classes. So while the children will be going to various classes throughout the day, they will have the same counselor that will stay with them from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. And the counselors that we have lined up right now are Ashley Blackstock, Sammy Half, Ashley Line, Jolena Anderson, Eden Michael, Miranda Wright, Seth Michael, Addison Keel, and Alora Blevins. We do need, in addition to the kitchen director and the 2 individuals that are working there full time, we need kitchen crews to work with them in getting those meals ready to serve. And so it helps spread the burden of work to have 5 different crews that can just work 1 day a week, getting there before breakfast, staying until after lunch. And we just really need crews of 3 people. That would help tremendously to have those 3 individuals helping out in the kitchen for each of those meals. So in regard to kitchen staff crews, we need 5 crews of 3. We need 9 group volunteers daily to assist the counselors in staying with those kids all day and going from place to place. The counselors will have the primary responsibilities in handling situations with the kids, but that extra set of hands is a great benefit and such a huge blessing to have in each of those groups. So where can you sign up? And just a reminder here as well, $62,999 955 meals have been served in the previous summers of New Heights. Last year we had 240 registered children. Because we're not having the middle school program this year, that is going to be capped at 215. There are 90 already registered, and those first spots are for children from Rhodes Elementary, and they get exclusive dibs on those spots until May the 1st, and then the spots open up for those on the waiting list, and we have 94 currently on that waiting list. How can you volunteer? You may have noticed on your way in, and you can be looking for it on your way out this morning, there are sign-up boards in the foyer that have all of these volunteer needs listed and indicate how you can help. We'll be letting you know very soon about an online option where you can sign up to volunteer online, or you can see Colleen Deathridge today or anytime in the upcoming weeks as you see her and talk to her more about New Heights. We'll close this morning with this verse from 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 21. You have been called for this purpose, since Christ also suffered for you, leaving you an example to follow in his steps. Specifically in regard to righteous suffering, how to respond when suffering unjustly, Jesus did show us that tremendous example, that while being reviled, he didn't revile in return. While suffering, he didn't utter any threats, but he kept entrusting himself to him who judges righteously. But not just in that area of life, but in all areas of life, Jesus provided that example for us. God in the flesh, God basically saying, I am spirit, I am not made like you, but if I were flesh and blood, if I were a part of the human race, this is what I would look like. This is how I would treat other people. This is how I would relate to other people. This is how I would speak to other people. So we seek to follow in the steps of Jesus as his disciples, as his followers, as students of our great teacher. We not only seek to follow him, we seek to be transformed into his image, to lead others to him, to share his light, and to show his love. And New Heights Summer Camp is just one tremendous way that we're able to do that. So thank you for the support that you have shown to New Heights over the years. Thank you for the thousands of hours that have been volunteered. And thank you for making this ministry what it is, a blessing to this community and a means by which we are establishing relationships with not only individuals, but with families, with the children, with the moms, with the dads, with the grandparents, with the brothers, with the sisters. This morning, if you need to be transformed into the image of Jesus by submitting your life to his will, by acknowledging that sin is a problem you can't solve for yourself, that you need his sacrifice, you need his righteousness credited to you through obedient faith, then we would urge you to do what Brandy Vandergrift did last week when she confessed her faith in Jesus Christ, when she turned from sin and turned toward God, when she allowed herself to be united with Jesus in likeness of his death, in his burial, and his resurrection, when she was immersed in his name for the forgiveness of her sins, to be cleansed from all guilt, to receive the indwelling gift of the Holy Spirit, to be added to God's family, the church of the Lord Jesus, and to begin walking in his steps daily until he comes. If that's the need of your heart and soul this morning, if you have burdens in your life, struggles that you want to share with this church family, to ask the shepherds to pray for you, we would love to be able to do that. Whatever need that you have, our shepherds will be here at the front. Let's be standing together and singing as Lee leads us in this song.